Tom. The reason that we want to be on the agenda of this meeting, I think most of you have my chapter resolution there, reaffirming for the past 20 years at least, begging for road improvement and development in San Jose community. And we're re-emphasizing the past 3 years resolutions that we have been submitted to BIA, Navajo Tribe, New Mexico State Department of Transportation. It seems like there's no avail as far as our requests. I want to see if we can get some positive response from this committee here. And we want to know where we are. Is there a possibility within the next 20 years? We keep hearing priorities that keeps moving away from us, just like a rainbow. Every time we see San Jose roads listed nearby within 10 years, 12 years, but then the following year it keeps moving away from us. Our roads are deteriorating. Safety for the public is getting worse, and that's the reason why we came here. If you have a chapter resolution that states that reaffirming, I don't know how many resolutions we have submitted. This resolution emphasizes two emergency locations. One is San Jose crossing at San Jose Wash. It gets flooded and it's danger when the water is running. And people from both sides of the wash have to wait 2 or 3 hours, especially for the bus, and then the people that have to be transported to a medical facility. And then the other emergency condition is at the junction of US 491 and N34. It gets flooded from overflow from Coastal Wash. That wash needs to be rechanneled so that the water can go underneath the bridge. That also is very dangerous. And also, traffic stops when the water flooded the junction of 491 and N34. These two are the most emergency area where traffic is constant and heavily traveled area. These are the only two areas that provides access to the community as well as emergency situation action out of the community. This is the reason why the community act on it and submit their request again by this resolution. I would like to receive some response, a positive response. The community is strongly requesting your favorable response. Not the only one saying even the other culture that not speaking. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Howard? Anything to say?
Mr. Tom, thank you. I'd like to add some concern to what my chapter president has reported. We've been having meetings with the local BIA and NDOT representative in the San Jose area for the problems. And so far, we're not really getting the answer of what we had questions for. Like what Mr. Mine said, there's a Tosador Wash, and it's all backfill from US Highway 491 to west side and to the east side, maybe a mile off from the road. And that one's all backfill. And when it rains, the water just flows along the 491 and at the junction of N94. That's the road that comes from Tse. The water kind of overflows the road there. We wanted to have that wash to be opened up again. We've been meeting on it, and they hadn't given us the authorization. Who is responsible to say, okay, go ahead and do this, and who's going to be able to help us to do to this state? We're not getting that responsibility authorization as to who is to say, go ahead, do it. Go ahead, we'll have somebody to do it. That's what we're really here for. And all we hear is, okay, it's under the responsibility of the BIA. Okay, when we go to local BIA, they said it's under the responsibility of NDOT and the Navajo Tribal Land Administration, and then BIA Land Administration. So we go to these people, they keep saying the same thing. Like BIA Land Administration, shipwreck, they told me, well, we don't have anything to do with it. We feel that since the wash will backfill it to the level of the ground level, and grass, weeds, and trees have grown back in there, so we thought maybe the land administration might have something to say on it, but they don't. So we thought maybe with the NDOT division director and regional BIA director, we can meet with them, and a representative from the EPA might be able to see who has these soldiers. There are a number of times they told us, these guys don't maybe you have to go see a Corps of Engineers in Durango, and they had the responsibility. That's what we were told. And we contact them. They said, well, we have to go back to BIA and the tribe. So it seems like we're not getting that answer. What we need, as far as the state of New Mexico highway, Division of Highway Transportation, from Chief Engineer in Santa Fe, he tells us they're only responsible in the right-of-way, so they can't do anything out of the right-of-way, so we understand that. But they need to clean underneath the Tosador Bridge. They told us they will do it when we get the Aurora rebuilt. So that's where we at. And there's some other problem with 491 highway too, so we need to get those addressed. But we probably have to deal with the state of New Mexico, Division of Transportation with that. And with the Tse Wash, there's a kind of a road across with the culvert, big culvert, about 10 feet diameter. There are about several of them that were installed by the BIA. I think it's 2 or 3 times. Every time that happened, when it rained, they all wash out. So what are we going to do? And we're trying to get another one built across with more stabilization. But from the local BIA, they're recommending that a bridge should be the only one be put across for permanent. Otherwise, if they do go ahead and build what they did before, it's going to might wash away again and just waste the money. That's what we're told. So right now, the local BIA and SUPRA agency, they're not really saying how it's going to happen. So we thought maybe that we meet with Mr. Riley, Mr. Chaco. They might give us the answer as to how they can help us. That's the kind of in detail concern that I have. And there's some other things that we like to add into. There's a proposed road improvement from Sweetwater Chapter House all the way to Minton Rock, just before the Rat Valley Chapter. There's about 14 miles proposed in road improvement. That's in 5012. A study has been done, but we were told that's been outdated. So we had to update part of it. And we found out there's a centerline survey was done on that road. But there's about probably 3 to 4 miles from Sweetwater Chapter to up on top of the hill on the north side. There's no center line. We'd like to have that one done by NDOT. And we talked to the surveyor and we talked to Mr. Barney about it, and they said they're willing to help as much as they can. And with us from Chapter, send out resolution to them, and we understand that. So, and then the other thing that we like to add onto our main request is we like to have a cost estimate done on in 5012. A cost estimate done somehow, so that might give us an idea if we might be able to try to contract some part of the work to maybe other New Mexico or other company. So maybe the chapter can come out with some little bit of money. So that's why we need to have a cost estimate. If possible, we'd like to have that one done. That's my concern that I'd like to add it to Chapter President comment. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Tom, Dorothy Red was to speak to what we pointed out here.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for bringing it forward to me. What I'll draw is what we've encountered. For years, from our chapter, we've submitted a lot of chapter resolutions, and a lot of it, I don't think ever made it to wherever they were supposed to go, even though our representatives have submitted the resolutions or presented them at the agency council. So the most recent time, Mr. Larry Joe said the resolution that was submitted, I guess it was in December, he said there are some words missing. And I'm like, how can that be? If you want, obviously there are 2 dangerous sites for the motorists. And how much more words can you add to indicate that driving through the community in those 2 places is a site that could potentially be dangerous and even take someone's life. I mean, how much more effective words you can add to a resolution to illustrate that these sites are problematic, not just for our community, but the public at large that travels through our community on 491. And also the Tennessee wash. So what I'm gonna, let me finish it, okay? The wash comes down from here, and it's a pretty concentrated wash. It comes down from a beautiful mountain that you guys all see when you drive through, and the other one's from Chusca Mountains. So all of these come down, they're concentrated down here, and it passes through, and here's Little Water. Little Water stores right here. So we got the two new lanes of 491. At the same time, we got Twisted Wash, what used to be Twisted Wash. So this is Twisted Wash. And then the other one is Tennessee Wash. So this one also gets concentrated flows from Chusca, from Sugar Hills, also up in the mountain. So these two goes through, and this from EPA, we tried addressing this from the very beginning. So this N34 connects 491, this is Highway 491. At the time, from where the crossing, the drainage crossing was to here, was exactly 1 mile. So down this way we got like a berm. This comes all the way down like this. I would think that's like a mile. So what happens, all this got accumulated dirt that's being washed down from here. And then down this way, eventually, the Twisted Wash drained down and met with Tennessee Wash. And at the same time, there's other ones that are built down this way. I believe these were built like in the times when the Triple C's were around, and they put these in. I read a book that talked about how these berms were put in by, I think it was Harvard students, way back in the early 1900s. And these are all put in, structures put in all along the valley. So all this dirt accumulated and worked its way back. So what happened is that the concentrated flow started coming down, and it started bypassing this berm that was here. So this all became a flood zone. We knew this was happening, but it wasn't so concentrated. So I'm convinced that the climate change is really part of it, because we're getting these violent, excessive or intense storms. So this comes back down to here. Then we got some homes right here, and an old home, and then the old sediment basins or borrow pits that were put in by the first construction that was done in 1979. So these are little holding ponds, and the same one right here. So what happened is that eventually this dirt backed up. Now it's at almost another 2 miles upstream. So that when you go through there, you got these homes that are right here. So it's aligned with that. And again, there's another berm that's here. So what happened is that the U.S. Department of Ag or Shiprock Irrigation office, they're the ones that built these kind of like a dike along the side after we had one intense storm back in the mid-2000, I believe it was 2007. So they went in and built this structure, so it kind of helped. So it kind of diverted the channel. But so this part right here, the old bridge and then the new one. So they, within the right-of-way, the Mexico DOT was able to clean it out. So what happened is that here's their crossing, and it was cleaned out. And I forget what year they said, but it was the time that the bridge was constructed. This was way down here. This was like in the 70s. Then it filled back up. So before the new one was constructed, it was real close to the bridge. So you have to, if you're going to go out there and look at the site, you have to go walk underneath the bridge like this to get through. So that's how much sediment had accumulated. And after that, they cleaned it out. So within, I think it was 2 storms, it went back to this original, the condition. So after that, we had 2 intense storms, which I video recorded on my phone, and also a lot of people had recorded. And this was last summer that we got 2 major storms. That's when it was major, and we had that hot plant that was set up. I advised that this site over here would be given to these guys, a contract. But what happened is the water went right through the middle of that hot plant, and it went down. So these people are very lucky that they didn't get washed out. So this bridge, it came down here, the water, this bridge, when it flooded this part, here's the top, and it barely touched the bottom of that crossing. So what happened is that the water was still flowing at the edge when I started hauling around, which was about 6:30. So this went in, and then it started the new sediment basin that was put in, and right here and right here, these 2 got filled up, and then the water started backing up into these 2, this other sediment basin. So once that filled up, this water backed up, but then it started flooding this way. So this was an old channel, and it went into there, it flooded both of them, and then it started going into here. So there's a big old earth that was left remaining standing right here, and another basin was put in on this side right here. So what happened is this one filled up, and it started taking down this whole earth that was left remaining. So this one didn't break through, but this one did. That's why you see that big channelized area. So this whole area got channeled, and they put in these pipes right here at Cary, so this whole area is channelized. And down here, this part right here, some families they died because they failed to stop and they just slammed into the hill on this side. So this part right here, you go up the hill and it goes, and then you have to decelerate at a slope. Anyway, that's the history part of it, what had happened the most recent time. But this this area was always flooding whenever this one backed up, and then it carried. So it channelized, and the water went down this way. right here. Once it filled up this whole place, and then the water changed its mind, and then it came back this way. Started going through, but not enough to cause this to channelize. So what needs to happen is that this part down here needs to break through. And when you go there, it's pretty high. You have to stand on top to look down. So it's really narrow. So this, all of this has to go, this berm, to restore the water. And meanwhile, this part, there's still some, it's okay, but all of these guys, the channel that was left, those all got erased. So somehow this one has to be dealt with. So we knew this was happening when the 491 was being constructed. And we addressed it to New Mexico DOT, the Corps of Engineers, and then also from our office. So the Corps were convinced from the Durango office that this can be dredged. So all of this could be cut out, this part, to restore it, to keep the channels going. But this was the part that the ranchers didn't want it taken out. But that wasn't really the problem. The problem was the sediment that was right here. New Mexico DOT didn't want to use this as a fill for the base for this new construction down at the bottom, which is what we were advocating. And then the other part was that New Mexico DOT didn't want to get a permit for this whole area. Number 3, Navajo Nation, DOJ was wanted the New Mexico DOT to pay for the excess material that is coming out for as part of natural resource extraction. So the Corps said it was okay to mine this or take it out, but that didn't happen. So the New Mexico DOT just wanted it like that. The other problem that when the north side was being constructed, because we had one person that went to our community member, Lena Nikai, who has a property up here. Where's the chapter? Somewhere up here. So this is a gravel area, and people, whoever it was, went to this person, Lena Nikai. He wanted to use this gravel for 491. And when he went directly to her, so what happened, she got a petition going to stop this from happening. So that affected the entire construction. So because of that, New Mexico DOT had to use local material, meaning that it's within the right-of-way. So that's anything that was right there. And that was at the direction of Governor Richardson. So as a result, this became channelized. It wasn't to be channelized. So here's the natural dirt, and then the road was put in. So the road was brought back up over time, but this was left down, so this part was all taken out and to use as a base. So that's what happened historically. And with Navajo EPA water quality, for water quality, we got 401 cert. And then there's Army Corps of Engineers, they have 404. And from our office and also from the Corps of Engineers, we knew this is a big impact area and how this part was altered over time. So as my coworker Tom Moore said, you guys are just over efficient with keeping sediment on top of the ground as opposed to other places where erosion problem. This one, the new permit is coming out on March 19, 2012, so in a few days we'll get a new one. This one, we're not changing anything yet, but eventually we will. So under this, it's still in the draft form once it comes through. We don't know what it's like. And then from NPDES for construction, general permit. This one came out also, I think it was the 19th. I have not read this. We don't work with this. We're not the one that issued this. This is done by US EPA. So from what I looked at, this is more intense. So the core, we still work with the Durango office. I let him know that we are having this problem, but more or less we were just waiting for this day to come around to see what the new law looks like. At the time that we were designing, or right before this whole thing was designed, the 491, we got the okay to get this whole area dredged, meaning to cut or excavate. That's what was okayed. So I'm hoping that the Corps would still be open to this idea. For our office, we had that letter written and it was done. So that's there. We know that the problem that it's causing. And this sediment has gone into this site, the N15. So this is all accumulated sediment, so the people have to keep their gate closed too. So that's what the background situation is. And of course, people backed up whenever this is flooded. We got people backed up. We got people backed up this way. We got people backed up this way. And fortunately, this part was all flooded. No one skidded off or anything happened. And that's what I was afraid of when we did that. So the other road that comes down this way, which is in 5005, which is where I live up here, and the Snosty Wash goes through, so we got another one that comes down. This is kind of like a swale, and people park up here until like they're coming home from after work, and then they'll be parked here until like 11 o'clock, way late. And we even saw one person trying to cross this way, and their Jeep washed down. But luckily there was a rock that sticks out, and he hit that, so he stopped that. So from my family, we were planning to put this at least 2 big culvert pipes, or at least 3, and put that in ourselves, but we held off because of all these changes, even though I got the okay from Durango to put it in, but we just decided to wait until what all the changes are. So we didn't do that. And so that's one place where a lot of people wait, and then the other part, people come back is this way. So we got a lot of densely populated area through here, along this side. And we'll have people literally wait at here, up here, before they can cross. And this way, along the base of the mountain, it's more populated than it is in Little Water. So that's my take on the information. So these are the new laws that changed, and even from the Corps and our office, we're still waiting, going through the new laws that are being that have been drafted, proposed, and I'm not sure exactly how long it's going to be. They're thinking that it may be released on this day, or may push further to the end of March. So from that, some of the roles that the agencies that have been involved, I talked with, I alluded to who they are. And of course, New Mexico DOT does not want to do anything outside the right-of-way. And it is a problem, not only on a small area, but a big area this way for the traveling motorists, and then locally for these two sites. Yeah.
Dorothy, what you're really describing is a flood control problem.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the roadway business. You got
Yeah.
491. You know, New Mexico is only going to work within their own right of way. BIA, you know, but what you're describing here is flood control. And until you remove this, I mean, you're going to have to. I mean, until you remove this, regardless of what you do here, if this stays in place, you're still backing up sediment, and you're going to end up with the same problem again. So you got to basically analyze this whole. If you want to keep as much flow in here, you got to analyze this whole wash. This has got to go. You know, this will basically have to be dredged all the way up to, you know, to some point. You know, and then that way New Mexico can come in here and clean this. If they clean it out now, it's going to fill up with sediment within a year probably. And you'll end up with the same problem and wasted a lot of effort. So I guess within the nation, I guess the question is who do you involve in terms of looking at this whole reach here? I mean,
Yes.
I mean the DOT's here to assist, but you know this is much bigger than what we.
Who put the dam that's further down there?
Was that a long time ago?
It's the Triple C. I don't know. what
Conservation Corps
these
back
guys-
in the 30s.
Is it an actual
Yeah.
dam, or
It is. It used to
Is
be,
it
I guess,
under
a
the-
holding pond.
is it controlled by the BIA Safety of Dams?
I have never interviewed them. The person that lives right here in this area, she's over 70 years old. She said when she grew up, she knew that this was here. So obviously it's in the early 1900s. And the other thing for this one, because of the situation where the culvert pipes kept washing out, I just said, why don't we just keep a low water flow? So what I would recommend for that is that concrete bridge, kind of like a multi-plate. Multi-plate, like the one in Kentucky Wash. I think it's Kentucky Wash. Just how the bottom was all done with the plates, the super span, or that big archway concrete bridge.
As far as department,
That's what I would recommend for this, rather than going through an actual bridge stuff. I think this might be a little bit, can be done more hastily. So.
you know, with this Toseto wash, I mean, you've got to find the appropriate people. I mean, Department of Water Resources with Navajo Nation. I'm sure there's some folks in there that deal with surface water. You're talking about all of these. I mean, have these been permitted, or is just somebody out there pushing dirt around? I mean, they're basically creating problems all along this water course, probably without any permits or whatever. And that's just creating, I mean, every one of these dams or whatever is creating sediment. And what that does is that a better picture to look at would be, let's say this is your natural wash bottom with no diversion, but you come in here and you build these dams. What ends up happening is it traps sediment, and you can see it backs its way up the stream. It fills this whole area up so that the natural wash that used to be there no longer has the capacity to carry the water. So as the sediment builds up, then the water starts breaking out. And that's what's creating all of this problem out here. And until you address all of these blockages, I think once you address these blockages and you open up this bridge and dredge out this channel,
Yes.
it'll reduce a lot of what the issues that you're having down here. But the challenge, of course, is okay, who do who do we bring in from the Navajo Nation, the Corps of Engineers, you know, land departments, whoever, all to the table to say, okay, this is the problem. What, you know, what do we need to do? I mean, from an engineering standpoint, I don't want to say it's simple, but if you give an engineering firm an opportunity to look at this whole reach, they can come up with a solution. But obviously, that's going to cost money. Then the permitting process that you need to go through, 401s, 404, environmental ARC, you know, all of this work that you're doing inside the wash, fish and wildlife, you know, all those folks are all going to have to come to the table. And there may be even some mitigation because you're disturbing a 404 possibly. We may have to mitigate, find another spot somewhere. I mean, I've got into situations like that where I've dealt with this similar scenario. But that's just the design part, getting the permitting. Then you've got to find the money to actually do the work. And that could be, you know, several millions of dollars. You know, you could be, the amount of earthwork that you have to move through here, where do you deposit all that soil to? I mean, you've got to find a place to dump it. And so this could easily be a $4 or $5 million project, you know, just in the wash alone, you know. Go ahead, Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Tom. Yeah. Our real concern is that these are fine, but we wanted to have this one taken care of as soon as possible. If this is the Tenastic Wash, right here it's going to be the bridge. This is our main concern right now. And we already have a clearance done right here. This is the road and Chapter House is right here, and this is the main Tenastic Wash. The clearance is already, they're already done from different agencies who are supposed to be responsible. In that, they did a lot of that, and they cleared. This is all clear now. It's just ready for design and construction. And all this one will be in the plan as time goes on. This one and this one is our concern right now. And as soon as we get this one done, it's going to clear a lot of this problem over here. That's the way we're looking at it. We just talk about it, and nothing ever happened. That's why we're here. I said, who is to say we're going to do it? That's what we're here for. Who is to say we're going to do it? And who's going to do the design? Who's going to do the engineer design? That's what we need right now. We don't want to just go away from here and just talk about it, but we like to know who's going to do this for us. That's what I need.
Our recommendations as far as making improvements to this wash, I don't know if it's the chapter that you guys go to your people to say, you know, you're saying the folks that, the rangers, or the people that have rangeland out here don't want to see this go. But if this is the source of the problem, then this has to go, you know. And then who pushes that? Obviously, it's got to be through the community, through your land, there's probably irrigation, farming, livestock, probably.
This is a ranching area.
We may have to go to eminent domain to take care of that area.
Yes.
That's a major public concern as opposed to one individual.
And then everything along here, and then the community's got to understand they can't put any of these water ponds or whatever along this, because that just, I mean, you see them all over the place. They're all blown out because they're not engineered. You know, they don't have the compaction, and they're not large enough to store this. Well, what they create is their sediment traps. You know, they just make a problem worse. So, you know, so.
It's one thing you need to understand is that the local people aren't repairing those. They've been put in, like I said, a long time ago, and I know that the local people aren't repairing them. Other than that little area where I said the berm was built by the irrigation office out of Shiprock. And I don't know who gave them the authority to do that, but they were putting that in. Because I know from the chapter we didn't give them any kind of authorization when they did that. That was probably 2007, I think it was.
We can develop a scope of work. You can line out the steps that you need to do, Wilson, to address this. But it's going to come down to money. The design's probably. You're going to have to, as long as this thing is, you're going to have to, you're going to have to do a drainage. There may be already a drainage study that exists with 491, so that's good information to use. Secondly, you're because of how, you could probably cross-section survey 3 miles up here and all the way past, all the way past this berm. That you're looking at a 5-mile survey. It might be better just to fly the whole thing, aerial mapping, and then you've got the information. Then the designers can come in here and take a look at, okay, how are we going to reestablish the wash? That way they can, you're going to have to put plans together, because whoever does this work's got to follow some, because that's going to be important in the permitting process. Corps of Engineers or whoever else is going to be involved is going to want to see what exactly are you guys proposing. So that effort could probably easily cost, several hundred thousands of dollars. Just in.
Excuse me. All the things that you're discussing, we can sort of understand, yes. But you as engineer, he as the division director, Mr. Riley as the director, I want them to say who's going to do it. We don't, all the things that you're talking about there, I think whoever 2 or 3 heads together and put it together and say, we'll do it this way. And here, from Sweetwater Chapter point of view, we already have resolution to do it. The chapter voted do it. But who's going to do it? Who has the authority to do it? Like I said earlier, is it BIA? Is it Tribal Land Administration? Is it NDOT? Is that Court of Engineers? Who has the authority? The chapter already go ahead and do it, give it permission with the resolution. But we just don't want to talk about it again.
No.
You guys can talk about it after we met. You put your expertise together and do something to help us. So I'm personally an environmental engineer with a degree. I said that we can do it ourselves. We go ahead and rent a dozer from a company and go ahead and redo that one, but we were told no from BIA. If you guys going to do it with no authority, we're going to confiscate your equipment. So, and we say, really, my people from community, really, every time I show at the chapter house, they talk to me about that one in the priest. No, but but I think you guys can find some money somewhere. If you need a little bit of maybe $1 kitchen, maybe the chapter can kitchen $1 or something.
But Wilson, not to say that we're not listening to you. We hear you. That like I said before, the challenge is the money. To do the design work that you need to do, and then more importantly, to go in there and actually do the work. You're probably looking at $2-3 million, and with our limited budget, and then I'm sure with Harold's BIA budget, I'm sure every community on the nation is asking for. Even just a bridge, that's probably a $2 million bridge you're talking about right there. So, and that's one of the frustrating parts about what we do is we know what it needs to be done. It's just we just don't have the money to do it. And how there may be some partners out there that we could talk to try to get some assistance, whether it's the federal government, maybe the state. And like I said, this is a flood control problem. most agencies have a department that deals strictly with these kind of matters. But you know, I guess that's the technical side of my presentation, just so that you have an idea of what we're up against.
This wash, this isn't anything new. This happens all over the reservation. I've got another project around 251 where we have a similar problem like that. However, Mr. Bradley kind of told you right off the top was that this is really not a transportation issue, and it isn't. It's a land issue, and I think natural resources and whoever authorized putting that dam downstream is what caused this problem. And what really needs to happen is that if that dam doesn't need to be there, then it needs to be removed. That's the cheapest alternative right now. But you have to go through the normal NEPA process in order to take care of that. Now, is that a chapter problem? No. Is it a BIA problem? Maybe. It depends, again, like I said, who authorized putting that dam in the first place. If it turns out that it was a land user out there that put that in because they wanted to capture the water to graze their cattle, then it becomes a Navajo Nation issue.
I